Making this video. Kind of cloudy, but I guess it's an interesting non-virtual background. Something's going on with the camera. But this is another one of the closeout videos. I'll keep making videos until the Lord gives me feeling in my heart. I'm still open to Him, still a sinner, still questioning things and kind of retreating into inner light. One thing I definitely see is the effect that the past 10 years has had on the church. A lot of effect. And this effect of our current cultural climate of retaliation. People always point to Capitol Hill. It's not true. I was out of the States. I put some stuff in here, but not everything. I was out of the States from early in the 2000s all the way through the latter part of this decade, or the last decade, correction. And my time abroad, the country changed a lot. Much more confrontational now. In communities that were, largely poor, economically disenfranchised. I'm not going to say racially, because we're equal, all of us. And I'm tired of race baiters trying to point the finger of victimhood at themselves when they're not alone in the victim pool. I'm sick of it. And I've seen, the economically disadvantaged people derailed become more confrontational. And then you add into all these movements, Me Too, Time's Up, QAnon, these various racial, what am I looking for? Racial reparations type movement, white anger, while ignoring there can be other anger as well. Other groups have anger as well. Just all of this stuff mixing. That melting pot, that vegetable soup of America is starting to spoil. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was allowed to bubble too long. So that being said, it's for patriots such as myself, it's very disheartening, especially veterans, the current state of affairs. And people allow it. It used to be when I was in high school and in undergrad, this behavior, confrontation, mudslinging, definitely interpersonal confrontational behavior, it was unacceptable. Now, it's the norm. That fabric of our country is starting to wear, and fire is starting to burn a seam on the strings that hold it together. And that being said, this video is about part of that. What is the problem with men of all backgrounds, but involved in politics, and probably women too? It's just better kept secret. Targeting teens. It's rampant. You're seeing it again and again and again and again. And not only do they want to, hook up with teens, but many times they're involved in passing them around, trafficking them even. What kind of behavior? This is sick. It's beyond somebody, finding it. A guy grabs a younger girl. These are teens. You know, it used to be back in the day. Oh yeah, interns. Yeah, he's secretly sleeping with the intern, or some guy just married the intern. I mean, it's these things happen. And people are attracted to younger people, but these are kids. It, I don't know. It's just becoming rampant. It is a pandemic, and you want to talk about a culture becoming pedophilic. What happened back in the day when some politician, oh yeah, he's fooling around with an intern, or she is fooling around with an intern. It was a scandal, and sometimes they ended up marrying them after going through a divorce. Not now. Now they target, recruit, hook up with, and traffic children, teens, after grooming them in their early teens. Filthy. We're starting to develop a filthy culture. And married guys, why look outside your home? You have a wife right there. If you're romantic and um, your personal bedroom life is doesn't appeal to you, well, maybe you need to go to a counselor or do role playing or something. I don't know. Those are, valid options. Or sit down and talk to your spouse of why it's not working, why there's no interest there, and change it. It's that easy. I just don't understand. This is becoming a rampant problem. Are we becoming a country of traffickers? And imagine all of these youth that are used again and again and again. They're, we've encountered similar type people. Now they're adults the past 10 years. And let me tell you, some of these people, it damages their psyche for life. You can just feel it. There's rage there. And sometimes if there's not rage, it's just an apathy, just a moral, um, I guess we'd say a disaffinity, um, no moral compass, a concrete, attitude that it changes people permanently, and they don't have empathy anymore. I've also found that a big problem with empathy when people have done so much to somebody that just ruin the direction of their life. Unless of course the Holy Spirit steps in. Sometimes He does. Sometimes the inner light will stay silent for a while. I mean, you we can't force somebody to learn empathy and to have compassion for another human being. Oh, especially when these things have happened to them. But when they look around after this kind of thing has happened to them, and they look around and they see a confrontational, amoral, destructive culture that's very focused on self, it's definitely not conducive to their healing. And we become just what St. Mother Teresa said. I watched her speech in the Rose Garden long ago, and we have a culture of death, and we're only embracing it more and more all the time. We're embracing a culture of death. We see it on the screen, we hear it on the news. Now we live it, and apparently we're embracing the culture of death more than the culture of life. And we go to churches. This is mainly for Christians. This part. I mean, there's some other kinds of homegrown Judaism, so to speak, that it doesn't really have any connection to traditional Judaism at all. Um, this is outside of various people that find Judaism appeals to them, like Native American experience, African American experience, um, people from poorer countries in Europe. They, their experience, Judaism may appeal to them maybe before they seriously consider Christianity, or maybe it will pull them into Christianity. No, I'm speaking of things that people basically just made up. And, when people go to these religious groups with absolutely no historical validation, they have no oversight, they have no traditions. I know this is a problem. I know I don't want to speak directly against non-denominationalism because it's becoming. I just read an article. It's becoming a thing in America. The mainstream churches are um, losing membership especially for charismatic, Pentecostal, and evangelical churches. Kind of, we'll call them neo-mainline churches, um, but they don't have any uh, historical connection. Some of them have been made within this decade, and some of them come and go out of street corners or, um, I mean, not street corners. We'll say street shops, um, street side shops, abandoned malls, stuff like that. Old pole barns. These ones come and go all the time, and that being said, this also could be kind of accelerant for what's going on in our culture, because if you don't know about history or you don't have it, you're doomed to repeat it. Benjamin Franklin. So if we don't have a backing in social justice or an understanding in the historical um, significance of sacrifice, of conflict, of pragmatic growth, then we don't have anything to teach from the pulpit. It, the teaching coming from the pulpit or the lectern rests solely on the leadership. And many of these churches, um, they don't have theological seminaries. Not that there's pastors out there who are non-denominational. There are many who have went to seminary, who do have an educational background, who do have a lifetime of experience. But the problem is, what you're getting with these churches is you don't know. That's what you're getting when you walk in. You don't know what the background is of the leadership. You have no idea. And then I've encountered some of these people in some of these churches that they make up their own institution. They don't even care about ATS approval. I mean, that's the main theological seminary. American theological schools is an accreditation body, multi-denominational, um, actually multi-religious as well. But somebody that doesn't even care about accreditation, it's not even on their goal. I've encountered some churches that isn't their goal, but it takes time to get things together. It takes time to get things organized to apply for the accreditation, because they're going to be put on probation, they're going to be watched, they're going to be, have certain mandates. Okay, you got to change this, change this. You've been on probation 2 years. You change this, we'll give you full membership. Well, there's some churches that are trying for that, and some churches that could care less. And so all of this falls on the shoulders of the person who's preaching. And you can be the best expository preacher, but when you don't have a lifetime of experience and some kind of historical education, and some kind of body overseeing the thought that you use to put into expository preaching, that's a pretty dangerous direction to go. Um, even Billy Graham had he had his a background in education. He was an anthropologist, and he had keen insight in uh, human frailty, um, human goal setting, um, a lifetime of experience. His family were Quakers, and so he knew people, and he certainly helped change the world. You know, full machine. I think he's blessed now, or soon to be as well. Everything that happened in his lifetime, he he didn't just walk up to a lectern and start preaching. He had profound revelations, profound experience, profound education. So if we don't have this kind of background in the lectern or the pulpit, it's only going to make our cultural problems worse. If we don't have a national conscience about how we treat each other, then I have to agree. Some people you won't even like, but if we don't practice, at least a tiny bit, this is for Christians again and for Jews, kindness or chesed. If we don't practice this just a tiny bit, we're going to see those frail strings holding together the binding of democracy. They're going to fall apart.